The changes that are taking place in the automotive industry as it transitions over to electric mobility are frankly breathtaking these days. And one of the subsectors of that is autonomous driving. So we're going to check in with Sam Abuelsamid, who's an EV analyst for Guidehouse Insights, into the latest in what's going on in that industry. Welcome to the interview, Sam.
Hey, Markham, good to be with you again.
Well, why don't you recently released a study on autonomous driving companies? Why don't you give us an overview of the study, please?
Yeah, so Guidehouse, we do these leaderboard reports in various sectors that we cover, including the autonomous driving sector, which is my area of interest. And what we do in these is we pick a group of companies that we think are among the leaders, mostly the leaders in that sector, and we score them all, give them a 0 to 100 score in usually about 10 different criteria related to their strategy and their execution, add it all up, and then plot it on a chart and see who we think has the greatest likelihood of success, who's best positioned to succeed in that sector. And the thing to keep in mind is that the scores are not absolute scores; they're relative scores. So from one year to the next, if we're looking at the same group of companies, just because a particular company's score may go up or down does not necessarily mean anything in and of itself. It's where they are relative to the other companies. So
Gotcha.
a company that may have kind of stagnated would might see themselves be a little bit lower than somebody else who's accelerated ahead of them.
So who's accelerating and who's getting left behind?
So overall, we still have mostly the same general cluster of companies at the top of the heap here. This year, I did make a little change in the way the companies that I've evaluated and how I've evaluated them. In the past, I've looked at the companies that are going to be taking automated driving technology to the end market, to the consumers. So it included more OEMs, companies like Ford's autonomous vehicles division, as well as Volkswagen and other companies, along with Waymo, of course, and Motional, or their previous incarnation is Aptiv. This year, I've focused on the companies that are actually developing the automated driving systems. So there's a couple of new companies in here. We've got NVIDIA, for example, that is new to this because they're not doing the end market. They're building automated driving systems and compute platforms for other companies. And so overall, Waymo came out on top. NVIDIA came in second, followed by Argo AI, which is the subsidiary company of Ford and Volkswagen that's developing the system for those two automakers. And Cruise, Baidu, and Motional at the top of the list.
So the question on everybody's mind is how quick are we going to get autonomous driving systems and things like robo taxis? Are we a little closer than we were last year?
Uh, yeah, a little bit closer. It's still not imminent. Let's put it that way. There are some very limited robo taxi deployments out there. Waymo is operating in Arizona. Motional has had a pilot program in Las Vegas for several years now. Cruise is probably going to launch their system, their program in San Francisco, perhaps late this year or early in 2022. Baidu and AutoX are both operating in China doing pilot programs. But it's probably going to be the middle to the latter part of the decade before we see large-scale deployments of robotaxis. In fact, what we'll see more of earlier likely is goods delivery, automated delivery vehicles. But we will see more robotaxi business growing. Motional has announced that come 2023, they're planning a multi-city rollout of robotaxi service in partnership with Lyft. Ford is planning to launch next year with the Argo system in 3 cities in Miami, Washington, D.C., and Austin, Texas. So it'll grow, but very gradually over the next several years.
So, final question, Sam. What's the best technology, and what are the technical issues that still have to be resolved?
So some of the key things, because an automated driving system, when you take the human out of the loop, traditionally with driver assist systems, the human is the backup for if that system fails, if something stops working. It gives you, it has to detect the failure, alert the driver is in full control at that point. With an automated driving system, there may not be any controls for the human to take over. There may not even be a person in the vehicle, in the case of something like Neuro's delivery vehicles. So the systems have to be fail operational. They have to be capable. If something goes wrong, there has to be backup systems to allow it to safely continue operation, at least until it can get to a safe location. So all of the companies, save one in this group of 15, all have multiple different types of sensors. So you've got, at the very least, camera, radar, and LiDAR. In some cases, additional sensors like microphones, Waymo and Argo, both using microphones, and Cruise as well, to detect emergency vehicles. Some, like Cruise, are also using thermal imaging sensors. And then having multiple computers as well. So you have a primary computer and a backup if the primary goes down. Those are key components of what's going to be a successful automated driving system that's also safe and reliable. And then, I think for the companies in this space, also having some diversity in the business model, hitting, not necessarily focusing just on one thing, not just robotaxis, but also, goods delivery, trucking, and various other things.
Sam, always appreciate your insights. Thanks a lot.
I'm happy to do it.